But on to a better subject. The editing room. Plot summaries with swear words.
Yes, I see you've read the banner of the website.
It sums it up, doesn't it, in a nutshell, and those 5 words. Yeah, you're the main contributor to the editing room. 144 scripts.
Yes, it's a lot. And yeah, I only just, I guess, recently vaulted into that top spot in terms of sheer number of writing credits. Anyway, I don't make any claims as to quality of them, but I mean, there are some very respectable people who seem to think they're pretty good, such as yourself. So.
I certainly do. Well, I think I've moved around as I worked as an IT contractor on and off for, I don't know, the last 10 years. Whenever I go to a new site, it's one of the first sites that I bookmark on the favorites list to have a read on. And it's been going for over 20 years. I hadn't realized it was that.
Yeah, since 96. Yeah. A long time. And I mean, obviously, I'm not the one who started it off. That was Rod.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so then I found out about it in around 2000, I think, because back then, I mean, we didn't have the internet we do now, but if there was a magazine called Entertainment Weekly, I'm not sure it still exists, but they would have weekly features on here's stuff you should look for on the internet, because we didn't have, we had to resort to leafing through magazines then. And they mentioned Rod's abridged script for the Phantom Menace, Star Wars Phantom Menace, so I read that, read all of those, and then there was a point where Rod sort of opened the door, put an announcement saying looking for contributions. So I sent a few in. He put a couple on the website. People said, "Oh, that's funny," and then I sort of, for whatever reason, sort of lost track of the website for another 10 years or so. And then my wife and I had just watched a movie by the name of Battle Los Angeles, which you may or may not remember. And just something
science fiction flick.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're both a sucker for anything science fiction, so we had to see it. And just something, just something about it made me think, this is as fun as it was to watch. This is really the kind of movie that needs a abridgment. Rod had not done one, so I just on a whim really whipped one up and sent it over to him. What I didn't know at the time was that Rod, for various reasons, was finding it more and more difficult to write scripts regularly, and he was within a hair's breadth of shutting the whole thing down at that time. So
there save the site.
I certainly did. Yes, that's certainly how I see it. So I mean, he was days away or something from just closing it down, putting up a sign saying, "Sorry, this is done forever." But then got the email from me. He thought, "Oh, let's put this on the site." Got some positive feedback, and so I did more. And now, that sort of kept the site going long enough till we found some other new authors, and now we've got a whole group.
I think sometimes some of the scripts, if I'm going to sort of look at a film to watch, do you call it a film or a movie? What do you say? What's normal for you?
It's interchangeable, really. I guess movie is the more generic term, but then a movie that's a little more serious is a film.
More highbrow. What we say as well in Liverpool, we're going to the pictures. I don't know, people, you say we're going to the movie house, you're going to the cinema?
The theater, usually.
Theater?
Yeah.
I've only heard that was sort of with theatrical production, real live actors.
No, we use, and we use it for that too. So just to make it confusing, I guess. Going to the theater, you don't know. It could be a movie, it could be a play.
Surprised when you get there. What's your process for writing a script? I mean, how often do you write them? You watch the film first, obviously, and then.
Oh yes. No, I also sort of laugh because I remember in the early days, it was a sort of common for people to say, "Did you even watch this film? Did you even watch the movie?" And but that died down after a bit. But yes, no, I mean, see the movie first, and then it can depend on the circumstance, because back in the before time when we could actually go to movie theaters, and who knows when or if that day is coming back. But yes, no, in those days it would I would just have to watch a movie, and then almost immediately on leaving the building have to whip out either a piece of paper or now I guess my phone and just jot down as many thoughts and notes as I possibly can, particularly when it comes to remembering the order of scenes with the order, just at least get the framework of the plot down, because I find that can be one of the trickiest things to think back on is, you remember how it started and how it ended, but sometimes it's the middle bits where it's like, which happened first in what order. So as soon as I can get that written down in some form, the better. Now, of course, that we're watching everything from home, it's a lot easier. I can now have a notebook on my lap as we're watching. And if it's, or if it's something like Netflix, where I can also stream it from a computer, we might, sit and sort of watch it properly from our sofa first, and then later on go through it all again on Netflix and take notes going through it that way.
Do you find that it sort of spoiled your enjoyment of the film? Are you're taking notes rather than enjoying the film? You're looking at the structure and how can I get a gag in here?
Yeah, well, it can depend on the movie itself. Like there are some movies where I know that I'm going to want to really just sit and focus on enjoying it the first time around, and then do my notes later. But then there are other movies where I know going into it, this is going to be some, pulpy, trashy bit of fluff, and and taking notes during it actually will enhance the enjoyment of the film, because otherwise I would just be sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, this is so dumb. This, this makes no sense. And at least if I'm writing notes, I have a outlet for that as it's happening.
What I found about 20 years ago, I did a screenwriting course, and I went through a period where nobody would actually come with me to watch a film. I'd be sitting there watching, saying, look, here's the first turning point, just got about to happen right now. And I'd be sitting there analysing it and speaking this out loud, and people saying, shut up, Teddy, just watch the film.
Yes, I think I've had a bit of that. There was when a friend of mine and I went to watch, I think it was the second Raid movie, the second Raid movie, the one with all the CLAT and martial arts in it.
Yeah.
And after I posted the script, my friend left a little comment just saying, imagine hearing all these points out loud as you're trying to watch the movie. Which he did not tell me as we were watching or even immediately after. He saved that until he could put a comment saying, by the way, you were saying all that out loud.
I see when I'm reading some of the scripts, they're sort of deceptively easy. They look as though it's, a bit of quick writing, bit of draft, but you cross-reference loads of other movies and, I don't know, cultural icons and events.
It's true.
So some of the ones I picked out, a couple that you've been involved with. One of them, They Live, John Carpenter film.
Oh yes, classic.
This was brilliant. I didn't have a clue what this was about when I started watching it, and these people, we've seen all these subliminal messages all over the place.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! So when was it that you saw it for the first time?
Probably about 5 years ago, I think. I watched it again recently. Yeah. The big thing in that film is the fight scene. He's trying to convince his friend to put on the sunglasses so we can see reality.
That is the big scene. Yes, it's that's one of those movies where I did see it back in shortly after it came out. Although I think probably on video or on television or something. So I knew of it. So doing an abridgment for it was a nice opportunity to go back and rewatch it, with sort of fresh eyes and with and being pleasantly surprised at how well it holds up now, both just stylistically and also all the themes in it.
I've read some of that fight scene took over a week to actually film.
Oh, I'm not surprised. No, I didn't have that information, but it's the sheer length of it all, and it's also one of those movies going into it where there's some movies, if you're going to do a condensation of it, there are certain scenes, certain moments that must be represented, or else anyone reading it is going to think, wow, you left out the best part. So it is funny, because sometimes you go into a movie and you know nothing about what's going to happen, and so you can just say, well, I'll find whatever works in it and that'll be happy. And then there's other movies where going in that you're going to have to think of something, some new take on this moment. This scene is ready and waiting for you, and especially when it's a movie that's from the 80s or whatever, and so there's been 40 years of for people to come up with jokes on it, and trying to think of, all right, I've got to think of something I've not seen But it's a fun challenge. So
I've
I
read
don't mind.
articles where people think that's actually it's not a movie. It's really like it's a documentary.
Yeah.
Some conspiracy theories about that. What's your
Oh, for
favorite
sure.
John Carpenter film? Are you a fan?
Oh, The Thing.
The
Yeah.
Thing. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. That's I don't know. That's when I go back and forth where like sometimes I want to try to do a condensation of that, and then other times I think, no, I love it too much. It wouldn't be good because I just feel like this is so great over and over again.
Totally agree. My kids, I've watched that a few times when my kids say, Dad, don't say the part where they look at the computer screens. And I say, oh, look how out to date they are. Old DOS machines.
Yeah. Oh, no.
That scene with Kurt Russell where they're going around testing each other's blood in the Petri dish. And there's some tension in that scene there. That makes the film.
Oh, it does. It totally does.
Yeah.
That's one of those movies too where the first bunch of times I saw it had to be on either video or television or something where it was all chopped up. It was done with pan scan to be in a little box in a square to fit televisions.
Yeah.
So then it wasn't until I got a chance to see a print in a theater with the full frame that certain details suddenly were revealed that I had no idea were even there. I mean, there's that scene, the scene that you just referenced where they're doing the testing in the Petri dish, and then one of them charges Kurt Russell. Kurt has to shoot him.
Yeah.
And it seems pretty clear self-defense, but in the theatrical version, there's a moment where off to the side of the frame, that character, we see him get the knife in his hand.
Yeah.
So it's sort of an extra beat of seeing this. He's got the knife and he's going to attack, and not just sort of lunge, but actually is coming at him with a deadly weapon. And oh my gosh, and like you mentioned The Thing, one of my other favorite details of that, because I again, like when I watched it previously, there's the whole there's the bit where they go to the cabinet where the extra blood is stored and it's all gone, and then they have a huge argument over who had the key to the cabinet. No, only you have the key, and they said, no, I gave the key to this guy, and there's a big fight, and it's never and the characters never resolve that. Like the characters never solve the mystery of who opened or who got the keys. And so I always thought, well, that's just one of those unanswered. It doesn't really matter who had the keys. But another thing in the theatrical, seeing it when I finally saw it in the theater with proper sound and everything, there's a moment where the character who's in charge of the keys walks into a room and there's the thing eating someone, and you cut back to the character and you hear him drop the keys on the floor. Like there's the sound effect of the keys hitting the floor, but you don't see it happen, and it's no one references it, but the information is there. In terms of, so he dropped the keys and the thing was in the room, grabbed the keys, did the thing. But I don't know, it's one of the I always enjoy when there's small details like that in a film that you can sort of discover.
I've never seen that on the big screen, only in a small. Do you know what? I'm going to watch that again tonight and try and look at those key moments.
Yes, key moments. Yes.
Horror films, something like horror films. One of the most dramatic nights I had was way back in 1974, queuing up around the block for a cinema in Liverpool. There was buskers entertaining the crowds. There was priests actually coming along and chatting to people, and there was St. John's ambulance people there. And
oh wow, was this The Exorcist?
The Exorcist, yeah. I saw it once at the cinema, and it stayed with me for the rest of my life. I think at the time, though, when that first cinematic release, there were subliminal images flashing throughout the film. I think they've since been taken out. I don't know if they're legal, but they take them away from the latest cut. But things like a demon lord just flashing up on the screen.
I think they did, because one of the only times I've seen that in a theater is sort of like your Hot Fuzz experience, because it was an anniversary. It was an anniversary re-release in the 90s, or I guess, and I do seem to remember those sort of images happening. They might not have been truly sort of subliminal, like that they were actually up for half a second enough that you could actually see them. But oh my gosh, it was the audience to this day is the single worst theater audience I've ever been surrounded by, because they were just, it was like going to Rocky Horror Picture Show, except it's The Exorcist. Just nonstop hooting and hollering and shouting and disrupting and throwing stuff around. I was still scared by the movie. I mean, that's how good the movie is. But
well, I've watched that again on video, and my wife basically laughs all the way through. I'm sitting there sort of still pretending not to be terrified, but here I am.
Yeah. Oh no, that's I mean, something like Hereditary and Midsommar. Those the more recent horror. I mean, those will linger. I mean, Hereditary was one I couldn't get out of my brain for a couple weeks. Have you seen those? Because they are scary.
Are they scary?
Oh,
recommended.
Oh yeah. Yes.
I think
scary
with the
Exorcist, and recommended.
Yeah, with the Exorcist film, there's no CGI. Everything was sort of mechanical. They've got the bed rock, and there's a sort of a joist or a hoist thing below the bed, pushing it up and down.
Yeah.
Oh yes, no, I always more realism.
Yeah, always enjoy a good practical effect.
Just looking at a couple of other scripts of yours that sort of jumped out at me. The Accountant.
Yes.
I've read that again this morning. I know the reference to Ben Affleck as Batman. Back to his Batcave, things like that. I really tickled me. Made me laugh a lot.
Well, it was one of those movies where, I mean, as you mentioned before, that part of doing these condensations is referring to other movies and bringing in other references, and I do like to normally do a variety of that kind of stuff, and not usually lean too heavily on the this is like another movie, or try not to do that too much. Just even though it's fun to refer to other movies during an abridgment, but I try not to do it too much unless the movie really forces me to do it. And The Accountant was one of those where it just would not let up with him doing Batman things, and and by the time he turns out to have the secret confidant of J.K. Simmons from inside the police, and it's just, I just had to throw up my hands like, all right, if you're insisting on being Batman, then that's where we're going to go with this. But
I hadn't realised the bit where he goes back to his trailer. He's got all these expensive oil paintings and all this stash of cash everywhere. That was his Batcave. Right?
Yeah,
it seems obvious now after reading what you said about that.
Yeah,
I like the opening scene as well for that one. You say Ben Affleck, he's sitting in an office that's sleazier than the one in Better Call Saul.
Yeah,
that just was a great introduction.
Yeah. Oh well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's fun to put little quips inside the actual scene headings too. It's like I don't know, feels more making use of the screenplay format of the whole thing.
What software do you use? Do you just type that up, the screenplay format? Is there any software that you use?
Oh yeah, no. Because the website itself, Rod installed. I forget the name of the program, but it's got a template inside. I mean, sometimes I'll do rough drafts just in Word or something, but then, but there's software inside the website that I just type everything in, and it does all the formatting for us.
I used to think called fading on the couple of screenplays I've had to go. Because I found using Word, it's all over the place. You type the interior and then the character name and the action below it. It's difficult shifting it all around all over the page.
Yeah.
Alex, I'm aware of the time. I know I was limited to 45 minutes, so I don't know whether it's going to join on to the previous one. The editor, Tim, he'll sort of fix these together. But if we start finishing off, maybe, I don't know, another 5 minutes. And then I want to make sure that I can say thank you very much. I've really enjoyed chatting before it gets cut off.
Okay, yes. No, and thank you for having me here. This has been fun.
No, it's brilliant. Do you want to discuss maybe another one, Yesterday film?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we can do that. I mean, that was a fun one to do because it also was a chance to put in some alternate song lyrics, and that's always a fun with on that particular script. I did have the help of one of our other authors, Jess. Did quite a bit of the song lyrics, and I just threw in a couple of my own, but which is nice. One of the benefits of now having a sort of stable of authors is we have the chance to collaborate on some things, and with some of the larger Avengers movies, we sort of all pile in. Like everyone sends me ideas, and then I sift through it all and seam it all together as best I can. And of course, I also have to be sure to work in as many of my wife's jokes as possible. because, as we're watching stuff, I mean, if it's a movie we're both engrossed in, we'll just pay attention. But if it's some, trashy, silly thing, and we both feel quite free to just say out loud whatever comes to mind. So especially if I'm taking notes, I'll also be making notes on funny things from her. So
I like the opening line for that one, for the Yesterdays, the shittiest songwriter of the shittiest songs ever. Something like that.
Something like that. It's sort of funny you say that, because like part of the writing process can often be taking a line like that and then trying 10 or 12 permutations of where should the swears go, and which swear, and how exactly should it be phrased. I mean, I think in one of your notes to me, you said that it looks all very seamless and effortless, which is not the case. Like after I mean, getting the rough draft down is the hardest part, to sort of getting through a full rough draft. But then there's the process of tweaking and hacking stuff out. But then sometimes it boils down to this particular line, how exactly should the which swear word is best and where should it go. I think that was one of them too.
There was one part of the script as well I didn't know, the Robbie Carlyle character. It's not a spoiler.
Oh right,
he plays the John Lennon character. I didn't know he wasn't credited, or he didn't want to be credited. Is there a story behind that at all?
Not really. I mean, the only story I'm aware of is the one that I put into the Abridged Script itself, that Robert Carlyle didn't want to draw focus from John Lennon, so he asked not to be credited in the movie. It's true. It's one of the other steps of usually if any movie I'm going to abridge, I will do just a bit of research to see if there's like important facts behind the scenes, or if there's context that because like we're having fun goofing around making fun of the movies, but I also want to be fair as possible, if that makes sense. Like I wouldn't want
does. That scene with John Lennon, it sort of made the film for me. I was enjoying it anyway. I'm from Liverpool, and some of the scenes were shot in Liverpool. It's odd as well when you're familiar with the place and you watch the continuity of the film where things are actually set. I think there's one scene where they go into a hotel, and I know that's the Port of Liverpool building. I know it's not a hotel, and it sort of jars as you're watching it. But obviously,
oh yeah, oh well, and believe me, when you live in Toronto, there's lots of American big studio movies that like to film here. So so it's very common that you'll be watching a movie that's supposed to be in Chicago or Philadelphia or New York, and then suddenly it's not. They're like 5 blocks from where you live.
Or to spoil the illusion then as you're watching
it can. Yes. Some of them are better at concealing it, but sometimes sometimes they don't bother because they figure anyone not from here isn't going to recognize anything anyway. So sometimes it's more blatant than others, but